This is Jan, and I'm going to lead you through a lesson on drawing. Drawing is important because it helps us to see the world around us. And there are a lot of artists that were also painters and left us a lot of drawings, like Matisse, Picasso, Da Vinci. There are a lot more, and that it was so good for them to learn to see by drawing. So that's what I'm going to try to impress upon you today. Before we really get to action, I'm going to show you some drawings and show you what you can do with a pencil, with charcoal, with colored pencil, with markers, with watercolor pencils or crayon. And there's so many materials to use in drawing. But basically all you need is a white piece of paper and a pencil and an eraser. So these are a few of finished drawings that I did when I was taking a class at Marywood. And I show you different values, the darks and the lighter areas. And I show you through these drawings a lot of your pencil marks. They're not all the same. There are many ways to complete a drawing. That was sitting on a stone wall, drawing a tree, a dead tree. Notice the different values, the darks, the grays, and the white of the paper. And here it shows you a lot of different strokes that you can use to get the pencil on the paper. This was a stormy day, a storm moving in. This one was done with colored pencil. If you want to add some color, you get some colored pencils. He's a majestic looking man, isn't he? This is what I'm going to guide you through today. But before we get to working on our paper with our pencil, I'm going to show you some of the equipment that you can use. This is my pencil kit, and it has many different pencils. The lead in your pencil, or the graphite in your pencil, goes from a harder graphite to a very soft one. And this kit has a lot of different pencils that go from hard to the very soft. The very soft will give you a nice dark value. Also, we need an eraser, and this is called a plastic eraser. It's a white eraser, and they're far better than those pink ones we used when we were in elementary school. And this one is called a kneaded eraser. It's not N-E-E-E-D, it's K-N-A-E-D-E-D, kneaded. And we call it that because you can stretch it. You can fold it over so you have a clean spot. You can twist it so you can get to a point and erase just a little tiny bit. And we use this for drawing also. And I'll show you how to do that. These are colored pencils, good old Crayola colored pencils. These are markers, all sorts of markers. These, by the way, have one end that is a brush and the other end is the felt tip. These are Conte crayons, or pastel crayons, excuse me. They call them crayons, but they're pastel. They're pressed pastel. Those are easy to mix. Now, where can you get some of these supplies? I know you can go to Walmart and you can get the white eraser, and you can get a kneaded eraser, and you can get a couple of different pencils from a hard one to a softer one. That you can do at Walmart, or if you're really ambitious, you can get hold of Cheap Joe's. This is the catalog where I order all of my supplies, and when I order them through Cheap Joe's, they usually arrive within 5 days. So, and they, as you can see, there's a lot available in Cheap Joe's. Just go to cheapjoes.com. Now, to learn to put the graphite on your paper, I'm going to start by guiding you through making 8 little boxes. You can do this freehand, or you can get out your ruler and do it with your trusty ruler. We're going to just do it freehand. I think that's a lot easier. And then we're going to learn how to put the graphite on your paper. There's a lot of different ways to do this. And by the way, my printing here is not very nice because I was printing upside down, so because my student was sitting across from me and I was doing all of my artwork that way, upside down, so that they could read the words. It's something to practice, get your mind working. By the way, Da Vinci had many sketchbooks, and when he wrote notes in his sketchbook, they're all written from right to left instead of left to right. We're not sure if he was maybe a little bit dyslexic, or if he didn't want anyone to understand what he was doing, because he invented so many things and he had the drawings of his inventions, and he wrote backwards. Kind of makes us think a little bit more. When I was teaching elementary school, I taught them about Da Vinci, and I wrote a note on the board backwards. And I wrote, Da Vinci wrote backwards. And I asked the students, what does that say? How can you figure it out? A few of them would say, get a mirror, which I thought was kind of neat. And then one little guy one day grabbed the piece of paper I was using and ran up to the window and put it up against the window so we could read it. He flipped it over so we could read it correctly. I thought that was very ingenious for the little guy. Okay, I'm going to show you how to set up your little boxes, and then what to do in those little boxes. And if you go through this video, go through it the first time and go from beginning to end, and then go through it again after you have drawn your boxes that we're going to draw now, because that way you can work right along with me and you will have your paper prepared.
Okay.
All right, start with the boxes. If you're going to use a ruler, it's very easy to just make 2 lines on either side of your ruler. I'm going to make 4 boxes down this side, and then 4 boxes. Now you turn your ruler the other way and make 2 more lines. You don't have to make any boxes if you don't want to. If you think you can just kind of keep it under control, that's fine too. And then we're going to make a long box over here. big vertical box. Our first box, we're going to do blending and label these so that when you go back and start your drawing, if you want to do a different type of application to your white paper, you can look at these little boxes and say, yeah, that tree would look a lot better if I blended it a little more. Blending means that you put down some graphite, and if you notice there's some white spaces in between the marks on your paper, you just use your trusty old finger to move some of that graphite around and make it a smoother transition from the light to the dark. This is called blending. The next one we're going to do is shading. And shading is going from dark to light again. But the best thing, example of shading is when you draw a circle. Now, we don't know if that's a cracker or if it's a baseball. And how do I make it look like a baseball? I shade the outside edge. I make it darker around the outside edge, all the way around. And then I get lighter and lighter and lighter toward the middle. And blend it. Blend it with your finger and smooth it out. Do you see that this now looks a little more round? I can make the inside a little lighter. And now we know it's a baseball. It's not a cracker or an Oreo cookie. That's shading. The next one is stipple. And stipple is using just little tiny strokes. You can change the pressure on your pencil and make some of those strokes a little darker. This maybe looks like a field or a crew cut on the top of a head. So that's called stipple. The next one is hatching. Hatching is making directional marks on your paper. They don't have to be real close together. And if you cross them, that's called cross hatching. And we're going to do hatching over here. We're going to leave this one in just one direction. This one's cross hatching, and this one's hatching. The next one is scumble. I like scumble. I use that one a lot. That's a C, scumble. And scumble is just keeping your pencil down on the paper and going up and down or across. That's easy to do. Darker in the front. I'm showing you that value has a lot to do with your drawing. Darker and lighter. Scumble. The next one is pointillism. And pointillism is making little dots all over. I'm going to show you some more drawings after a while, and you can pick out where I did these different exercises to create my drawing. This one is using a kneaded eraser. And I'll show you what a kneaded eraser can do. I am going to turn that little gray spot into a snowman. How do I do that? I use my kneaded eraser. I make it into a slight point, and I erase his head. I erased his body. I make it a little darker at the bottom so you can see where he is. Put a hat on his head with a bit of scumble. Give him a carrot nose, 2 eyes, and a scarf to keep him warm. Did that show up? It's over on the right. And I'm going to start with, this is HB, which is a hard pencil, hard graphite. You notice it's very light. When you do this value, label what pencil you used. So you can always go back to it and say, okay, if I want to make something dark, I have to use a softer pencil. And then move on down using different weights of pencil. I know one time at Walmart, I could get 3 different pencils with my little drawing kit. And that way you had a little bit of variety to work with. This next one is that I'm going to use is a 4B. This one's a little bit softer, and I'm going to work on down here, and you'll see immediately when I'm using the same pressure that I used up here, only it's a little lighter. This is a 4B. Most of our pencils that we use in school are 2B. And I'm sure you'll be able to find a 2B. This is 5B, a little bit darker. A 5B. The next is a 6B. Oh, we're getting darker. We're getting to a pencil that we could use for shadows. 6B.